After I finish my morning stretch, I can't wait to get into the sewing room, but that means I gotta pick up my yoga mat and get it out of the way. I thought, what a fantastic new project. Let's make a folded fabric strip yoga mat bag with a zipper to boot and a handle. Wow, I'm ready to get started. Today's project features some fantastic 2.5-inch wide pre-cut strips from Island Batik, and in my packet I had 2 of everything, but that doesn't really matter because of the organic nature of the way that you're going to lay out your colors and fold up your fabrics to make the bag. Now the bag is completed using all of those strips and some zipper by the yard, but I got to show you where we're going to start from, which is building a pile of fabric, right? So what you can see here now, and by the way, I've used an average size 24-inch length of my yoga mat. So the numbers I'm giving you today in the video worked with my mat. If you have a different mat, pay attention to the numbers, right? So we're gonna make a 45-inch long length of fabric using 30 of our strips. 30 of them will go perfectly around that average size yoga mat bag. Now, a lot of times when we're working with folded fabric strips like this, we want to have no raw edges, so our bags are completely reversible. And so what I did on these first 3 strips, you can see there's no way to get into those strips. And that is done by preparing our strips by pressing them into quarters, okay? So I'm going to open this up to show you. Might even be easier if I just take one of my extra strips that I didn't use for my bag and just give a little pressing. So the easiest way I found is I first set a center seam. And with that center seam, that's going to give me a great line to come back to as I fold down. So I've created a center seam. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold down to that center seam here. And of course, you'll be doing this for the whole strip. I'm just so excited to get that zipper installed. I want to go quick here, but I know I got to slow down so you see the steps. So I'm going to roll that bottom edge up too, right? And just about to that center mark. You don't want any bulk in that center if possible. And then the last step would be, of course, folding it over. And this step, I believe, is actually the most important in all of the pressing because I want you to press all of your strips first so that you're ready to just enjoy the rest of the construction. So by having that nice press, you can handle the fabric strips over and over again and they won't tend to try to open up on you. Now, I'm going to show you a quick trick real fast here. I want you to pay attention. I am going to be mounting finished edges over here on my handle. I want it that way. But I want to put my zipper in on the bag. So on the outer 2 strips of the body of fabric, we actually put them in opposite to how I'm about to teach you. So they're open. So we're going to slide that zipper right in. We'll get there. Hang on. Standard construction for those folded strips. I have a finished edge. I have my open edge. And with that open edge, I'm going to mount it right to the finished edge. I'm going to come over to my sewing machine where I have some polyester thread today because I want the strength of that polyester thread. I've got a zigzag set up on my machine, and right now I'm looking at about 3.5 millimeters wide and about 1.4 millimeters long. Basically a small zigzag will help. And I'm going to join these edges next to each other, kind of a butt edge. And as I begin sewing, I'm watching the edge of the fabrics at the center of the presser foot, and I'm just zigzagging right over the top of them. As a matter of fact, they make a couple of other accessory feet that are pretty awesome for this, but not all machines have it. So I'm showing you with your average foot, but they do make what's called an edge guide foot. It has a blade in the middle of it, and that will help you join your seams as well. If you have one of those, you might as well use it. Okay, let me get this done so I can get back. Now, as I'm finishing this handle out, I've got those 4 strips all together, and I really do enjoy these kinds of sewing projects where I can kind of just get all my prep work done and then enjoy sitting at the machine while all the parts and pieces run through, right? Okay, so we will want all 4 of these strips for my handle down the road, but now we're going to start to build the body of the bag first. Now, in order to build the body of the bag, like I said, I have 30 strips. A quick reminder, I have the edges opened. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself my ruler and my cutter, and the first edge up here, I'm actually going to, let me show you this other neat little trick here. I am watching all of these lines in my ruler this way to make sure that my ruler's square to the fabric, because I'm going to do a trim first. Okay, and now as I mentioned earlier, my yoga mat is 24 inches, so I want at least an extra inch on either side, but I'm gonna have some seam allowances in there as well. So if you wanna add even more, I'm not gonna stop you. I cut my piece at 26 inches. So I'm just gonna come down here and I'm gonna cheat a little bit because I'm using the mat today, and my 26-inch mark is gonna be right here. And just to make sure, I'm gonna give myself an extra 1/4 inch because I don't wanna have any problems. And I'm making sure I put a lot of effort into this, making sure everything's nice and square. And we're just gonna go ahead and slice through. Now, one of the tricks to cutting through all those layers is always have a fantastically sharp blade on your rotary cutter, right? And I also want to point out, down in the description below, we have a link to our free printables. And this printable takes you through the steps of the ironing, the stitching, but also what we're going to do now is we're going to use our scraps here to make the 2 circular ends of the bag. Now, I have a funny little formula, and I won't bother you too much with geometry, but what I want you to do is I want you to measure the width of your bag across here, and then you're going to divide that by 6.28. Crazy, I know, it's 2 times pi. Now what that'll do is give you the radius to set up your cool circular rotary cutter, right? But I'm also going to remind you, add in your 1/4 inch to your number so you have your seam allowance as well. Okay, I've got a fun quick tip. If you don't know how to use this, I'll send you down to our quick tips to watch that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to map out where I'm going to end up with this circle. And I don't want these green edges in here because of the openness of them. Perfect. Here we go. And I'm going to need 2 of these, 1 for each end. Oop. Little bumpy. You want your fabric to be able to travel around a little bit with you there. Perfect. And even that bump you can see doesn't cause a problem. Why that was happening is the fabric was kind of gapping out and not an issue there. I've got plenty of zone to work within. Nice fast circle. Let it free. Look at that. I love these circular cutters. These are fantastic. Okay, so now that you've got your circles ready, it is time to finish all of the construction on our bag. And the first thing we need to do is we need to take our zipper by the yard and get it in place. Now, if you've never handled zipper by the yard, it comes as a roll by the yard with a lot of different zipper heads on there. I've already scooted the heads down and out of the way because I want my zipper by the yard now to be at least, I'm going to say, 1.5 inches longer total than my 26 inches I created there. I want a little bit to hang over the ends so I don't have to worry so much when I'm handling the zipper. And we're going to go ahead and start by installing the zipper right into this open end. But here's my trick. Remember when I asked you to cut your zipper about 1.5 inches long? Well, what I've done is I've gone ahead and secured so the zipper can't come off the end with a safety pin. And then we're going to start our first set of sewing way up here so that that extra 1.5 inches isn't even in our project. We'll have to zip the head back before we get too carried away. But for right now, I want you to see what I'm doing with this zipper foot actually. I've got my fabric back just a little ways from the actual teeth of the zipper and the edge of this foot up against there. Now I've moved my needle over so it's stroking through the fabric itself and catching it nice. And then you just want to go nice and slow to make sure that you secure that zipper in that wonderful opening we've left for ourselves there. Let me jump into caffeinated mode and get this side done so I can walk you through the second side. That first side of the zipper went in no sweat, right? Now the second side should go almost as easy, but we're gonna have a little bit more management. So one of my other tricks is I like to put in another safety pin up here in the end we're gonna be working towards, and I'm gonna put the skinny end right into my finger. I'm glad you didn't see that. And out here, okay? And then that way I can still grab the other side of the bag. And we're gonna start by getting these ends in here. I'm going to start up here and I want the bulk in my lap. As I said, we're going to need to slow down and handle this management a little bit. So I make sure, number one, we don't stitch over that safety pin. So I'm just moving it up a little bit, and I did not need to move the side of my zipper foot the way I'm doing it this way. Let's go ahead and back stitch a couple to lock it in, not onto the safety pin. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stitch, and you notice that the bulk of the bag is in my lap right now, and I'm actually working on the inside and the back side of this tail. So we're just going to go in here about as far as we possibly can, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take a little back stitch because I want to secure that thread cut your threads actually. Okay, and now we're gonna take this thing out of here at this point, and we're gonna unzip our zipper, like yay. And now we're gonna be able to come back in here on the other side of the opening. So you notice I've got the opening now up here, just like that. And now I'm gonna just take a moment and get myself organized and stitch this all the way down to the end. And then we'll be getting ready to put those wonderful circles on the end and the straps at the very same time, okay? So I've got this organized. I'm gonna line up about 5 or 6 stitches back so it all looks terrific. Make sure that you've got that zipper where it belongs, right? So you're just gonna do that. You're gonna back stitch to lock it in. And now we're just really easy sewing right through here. Okay. And then just make sure you're always keeping that zipper inside the opening of your batik strips. Okay, here we are coming into that end. It's gone really nicely. You do have another safety pin down here, so be careful, but we're gonna back stitch. We're gonna cut those threads. Come on out of here. And so now what we have is we have a fully functioning zipper wrapped around my thread tail there. Fully functioning zipper in here. I've still got my safety pins. I am going to want to go ahead and now take and trim this off, right? So don't keep goofing around with your zipper because you might take it off of that end if you're not careful. Okay. I'm going to put my straight stitch foot back on because we're going to now go ahead and put the bottoms on and catch the handle all at the same time. So first of all, take your bag and make sure you know which is the right side. It'll be the side that has the head for the zipper on it, okay? Then from there, we're going to take our handle and we're going to basically catch this in that raw edge as we put it all together. So I liked to work away from my zipper, so I just went down about 4 or 5 strips. And I went ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to pin it in place. I've got some straight pins somewhere down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of those straight pins and I'm just lining up my edges like that. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make sure that there are no twists in my handle. And of course, you should check the measurements for your handle as well. You know, one of the things I remember doing with mine is I cut about 6 to 8 inches off of the handle. So let's just do that now. Let's cut 8 inches off for us, like that. You can make yourself a cool little keychain or something out of that if you wanted to. And now I'm just running down. That is that same center seam, no twists in my handle whatsoever. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put another pin in right here. Okay, now this is the right sides of the bag. So let's go ahead and either unzip it if you'd like. You're definitely going to want it at least partially unzipped while you're working because you're going to need it unzipped to get out of the inside because we're going to start working on this, like I said, right sides together now. Now we take one of our circle pieces. Doesn't necessarily have a right or a wrong side, and I'm just going to go ahead and get ready to set this in here, but I do like to catch the handle first. Kind of come around from the back a little bit, back up my circle just enough. And now I'm just going to watch the edge of my presser foot and the edge of my bag and make sure I've got this thing set just the way I want. I actually need to move my needle position over just a little bit because I only gave myself a 1/4 inch for that circle extra. So there we go, that should be plenty. And now as I work through this, I'm going to catch the handle. I'm going to let the curve of the circle guide me through the rest of the bag body. And as I approach the zipper, one of the things I like to do is I like to go a little bit slower. And then right as I get over, I can feel it, pop, 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 pop. I can feel that zipper in there. Now I'm gonna back up and forward and back up. You know what I did? I just secured that zipper base so that it won't unzip ever. And then one last time over it. Kind of a cool trick, I think. And now we're just gonna go around here. Keep on stitching. You can probably see that it's coming together really nice on this circle. I am kind of wishing I had my stiletto. There's a lot of bulk in there right now, but like I said, just slow her down a little bit. Take your time, and as you come back over the spot where you started, we're gonna also backstitch a couple times over that to hold it in, like yay. Okay, cut that thread. Okay, and we're almost there. We just have one last end to go. And what I wanna do now is I'm gonna zip this up. Okay, I don't like the fact that I feel like that wants to shift around. And I don't want it to shift around while you're working, but we are gonna need to keep it open. So I'm looking for that safety pin I had. And we're just gonna try this trick. I hope it helps, okay? So yes, we do need to sew in this area. So let's just go up a little ways, okay? And just safety pin that to keep things from moving around. I think that's gonna help us a bunch, okay? But we can still get in here and unzip our bag now, but it's secured up there a little bit better. We're gonna come down here. We're gonna go right sides to right sides. I'm gonna start up on top of that handle. Make sure all my edges are lined up nice. And if all has gone well, we are presto. We're gonna pull that safety pin out of the way there, right? We're gonna turn this beautiful new yoga mat bag right sides back out. Just to make sure it works. Come on now. I'm getting all excited. You wouldn't think I was in Zen mode with that kind of activity, right? You've got a couple of pins in the handles there, so still be careful. As it comes around, and now you have a fantastic, super custom Batik yoga mat bag with a handle and a killer zipper, and you are ready for class. Now, if that was your very first install of a zipper, I bet you're ready for a bit of a stretch and some Zen as well. Remember, they're not difficult, but they need us to just slow down a little bit, a couple stitches at a time, and enjoy it. And even us pros sometimes have to go back and do it again and again and again. And until then, we'll see you at Man Sewing. Thanks for being a Man Sewing fan. It's great to have you out there encouraging me to create fantastic new content. If you've missed any of the videos, we've got links for you here and here. And while you're checking those out, make sure you're subscribed. We don't want you to miss any of the action.